Hey everybody, it's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope all of you are having a good start to your week. I am going to be as succinct as I can in addressing this issue that I'm about to bring before you. But those of you who follow me for any time know that I am one of those people that's detail oriented, so very rarely are my videos super short. But I'm gonna make it as short as possible because I've got a lot going on right now. So here we go. As you always know, look in the description box at the top and show your love and support for the work we do in the community in all the different areas that we do it. I'm not new to this. Those of you who follow me know I've been doing this for decades, and I've been online doing this for almost 15 years, so this is not new to me. And what I do as far as talking is just a fraction of what I do. From research, program development, community engagement, involvement, advocacy, in so many different levels. Something lands on my desk daily. I'll just leave it at that. But let's talk. There's so much going on. And what frustrates me is we really are a lost people. And what I mean by that is we don't know who we are. We don't understand how things work. We spend a significant part of our time attempting to fit into a system that wasn't built to serve us. The idea of creating our own is distant and almost alien. The need for someone else to validate or co-sign what we do as a people is ridiculous but common. And what we end up doing is complaining about things we can change. I remember growing up, those of you who follow me know, I was reared by my great-grandfather. To give context to this, my grandmother's parents reared me. And one thing that my great-grandfather would not allow me to do was come to him and complain about something without having explained to him what I had done to try to change it. Now, he didn't have a problem with me bringing something to him, but he had a problem with me complaining and whining, and he had a problem with me running to him without trying to solve it on my own, because that creates a dependent mindset. You're always looking for someone else to fix the things that you are capable of fixing. And so you never ever truly step into your responsibility of taking the reins of your life and your future. Now, this happens on an individual level, but it also happens on a collective level. And the more you play yourself as a victim, the more you feel like somebody owes you something, the less you do to change things on your own. Am I saying that we as a people haven't been mishandled? Absolutely not. Am I saying that there hasn't been 400 years of systematic manipulation, control, oppression, and so much more? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if we can prove this in a court of law, nothing changes if we don't change it, because the system isn't designed for us. So then what must we do? We must sit up and look at what's going on. And I'm talking specifically now about all of the darkness that's going on. We've got emotionally displaced black men on violent rampages. And while they don't make up a significant part of the population, they're all we are going to see, because that's the image that mainstream wants to portray. The uncontrolled, violent, criminalized black man. Again, there are right now 1.3 million men, black men, in prison. Substantial number when you consider our numbers, but still a fraction of the black men that are actually in this country. So again, it's not a great representation of who we are, but that's what you're going to get. You see the negative representation of our young women, the over-sexualization of our young women, but more importantly, I'm starting to see our young children targeted for over-sexualization. I forget what state it was. I want to say Utah or somewhere up in there. But the state voted, State House voted by a vote of 70 to 22 to remove all sexually explicit books from the children's section in libraries. Now, me being the researcher and the problem solver, immediately questions come to mind, because that's how you begin. That's the beginning of research and understanding. It's asking the right questions. A couple of questions come to mind immediately. Well, I'm turning too quick. The first question that comes to mind is, why were they in the children's section in the first place? Whose idea was it to put them there, and why would they think it's a good idea? And then the next question is, who are the 22 that thought it wasn't necessary to remove them? Because the vote was 70 to 22. You know, somebody would say, well, you know, it was defeated soundly, but why is there 22 people that believes that there's nothing wrong with sexually explicit material being in the children's section of a library? We're not talking about sexually suggestive, which I still have a problem with. We're talking about sexually explicit. It's explicitly sexual, and it's being pushed into the children's section of libraries. And obviously it was being done at a rate and a level and consistency and impact that it drew the attention of the state house. Now, this isn't an isolated incident. This is a problem. And because we now have our children, and everybody over 2 has a freaking phone, everybody has access to the internet. And so you got to be constantly aware. You know, I have a little phone that I give my grandson when he visits me. It stays with me when he leaves, but whenever he comes over, he has his phone, and it's for him to watch children's videos on YouTube and Prime and whatever. And I am constantly checking to make sure that's what he's watching. But now I have to screen the freaking cartoons, because they've got sexual content in the cartoons. It's veiled, but it's there. I mean, all the way up to kids talking about their little private things, kids talking about their sexuality, kids talking about gender assignments and all this stuff like that. They're seeping it into the environment. They're normalizing this type of behavior. And what's happening is everybody's sitting around and nobody's doing anything about it. And the ones that are going to be most negatively devastated and impacted by this are black children, because they're the least protected and the most vulnerable. And what are we doing? We're sitting around and we're talking about all the celebrity gossip. We're caught up in all the hype of things that don't matter, that don't have intrinsic value, and we're hanging our hats on that. All while we're literally sitting up and losing a battle that we could win. We are actually missing an opportunity to wage war in an area in which we could actually gain ground. We control what our children consume. We control what we expose our children to. We control the initial engagement in teaching and socialization of our children. We have the capacity to sit up and create something special, but what are we doing? Celebrity gossip, caught up in all the hype, or we're caught up in trying to prove to everybody that we've arrived, that we are successful, that we've mastered this, that we've achieved the American dream. I'm not saying don't go for success. I'm not saying don't try to build wealth. I'm not saying don't stack your ends. I'm saying absolutely do that, because that's where the power lies. But it's not in stacking it that's going to matter. It's what you're going to do with it. What are you going to do with it when you have it? How are you going to invest it in yourself, invest it in your kids, invest it in what you believe in, what you're passionate about? And then that leads to the question, what are you passionate about? Are you really as pro-black as you claim to be? Or is it just something to yell out Is it just something to say because it's a cool thing to say, or because of something? Are you really truly committed to it? Are you really truly ready to make the necessary sacrifices? Are you really truly ready to step out there and go and do the things that are necessary in your home, in your community, in the schools, in the courtrooms, in politics, in workforce, all these different places that we need to be standing in the community? We're getting gentrified at massive rates. And very little is being done while much can be done. I've written on it, I've talked about it. Dr. Boris Watkins has talked about it. Dr. Claude Anderson has literally laid a blueprint. We've put it out there. I built the Legacy Wealth Academy. There's so much that we can be doing that we're not doing. And that's on us. I've partnered with a former client to build a step-by-step process on building out net worth that is going to be in supplementation to the primary course at Legacy Wealth. These are people who have done it already. These are people who are trying to show you how to do it, and they're no different than you, but you've got to be willing to step in. So many things are going, but what I want to focus on is, what are we going to do about our kids? We're not socializing them, and they're growing. When you don't socialize a young girl, she grows up and she doesn't understand who she is. She becomes easily manipulated, she becomes easily played, and she goes through these cycles of being mishandled by men. If you don't properly socialize young boys, they become the men that sit up and manipulate and mishandle the girls, and in many instances become violent to them, criminalized, and constantly incarcerated. The incarceration rate could drop drastically if we properly socialize boys. The whole reason I created Black Men Lead. But it turns out that so much more happens when you properly socialize young black males. Not only does the proclivity towards violence fall drastically, they're less likely to drop out of school, they're less likely to become incarcerated, they're more likely to make a living wage, they're more likely to start their own business, they're more likely to create and sustain a family. All the things that are going to be immensely valuable in building this Black Power center that we keep talking about. It doesn't come because you talk about it. It doesn't come because you sit up and you have debates about it. It comes because you sit down and you create a strategic plan, you create agendas, you create protocols, you create a code of conduct, you create a demand of what needs to happen. You can't have an antinomianistic mindset. You cannot have, I can do whatever I want to, it's my life mentality, and create a collective community. Individualism is one of the strongest enemies and destructive forces against building community. It takes you and it makes it all about you, and you don't care what your behavior does. As long as you get what you want, you can't build on that, can't win with that. So you've got to understand some things have got to change. Well, it's easier to change it when you start at a younger age, when you inculcate it into their psyche. Then you're able to sit up and create a mindset that works towards the betterment of self, but also the betterment of the community. That's what we need. Everybody now is just thinking about themselves. The problem is, while you have individualized minds in every race, the difference is when things happen, they are trained to rally the troops and circle the wagons, and they do it along the lines of race. They know how to rally with one another. They know how to support one another. Wrong or right, they will. And that's something we don't have. We have got to learn how to come together and function and operate as a collective. This is my challenge to you. This is what we need to do. So on that note, look, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. And I wish you the best. If you believe in the work we're doing in our programs like Black Men Lead, which is a rite of passage initiative that socializes young black males, our program for young girls battered, traumatized, sexually abused, domestic violence, all that, you really need to show some love and support for the work we do. That's in the description. Go to the description box. At the top of the description box, the way you can give is there. On that note, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. I just had to drop in and say that. So again, thank you. You guys have an unbelievable day.
Yeah. They said I should give it up, like that just ain't
Hello everybody, Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in with a little special announcement for those who have followed me for any stretch of time. You know, outside of the businesses that I run, like Myriad Business Solutions, the Visionetics Institute, Odyssey Media Group, I also do a great deal of work inside of the inner city communities in Houston, Dallas, and other areas. I'm asking now, as we push a fundraiser, that you support what the Odyssey Project is doing in the inner cities, especially with programs like Black Men Lead, which is a rite of passage initiative, and Restoring Ghetto's Forgotten Daughters, which is a program focused on helping young girls, but boys as well, suffering from childhood sexual abuse, rape, molestation, domestic abuse, absentee fatherhood, and so many other things. The information will be in the box. Thank you.